We say, yeah, GBN we say, arts and culture living, yeah. Rock the box we say, I'm telling you, rock the box, rock the box, rock the box we say, I'm telling you, rock the box, rock the box, rock the box we say, we'll be jamming here on a Thursday.
Good morning to one and all. Welcome to another edition of To The Point. Today being Thursday, the 25th day of May. Good morning to our listeners via K105, viewers via GBN TV. Good morning. Also, viewers via our social media platforms, whether it's our, of course, our Facebook page, YouTube channels, GBN's webpage. Good morning to you, and thanks for being with us this morning. And welcome to The Point. Your host, GT. And with me this morning, of course, the usual. Before I used to be saying Constable, but now it's Corporal.
Yes, it is.
I want to congratulate you on your promotion and all the best.
Thank you very much.
All right, all the best. This morning we're talking traffic offences, and you know what happens on a Thursday. We do have, of course, various departments of the Royal Grenada Police Force, and the traffic department is out this morning, and we're talking traffic offences. Constable. Corporal, let me get it right. I won't get it before the day up. Don't worry.
Yes, you will.
I have so much time saying Corporal, so it's Constable, but no, it's Corporal Troy Paul. Let me get it right. Corporal Paul, let me ask you. When we talking traffic offences, there are various offences that individual how I could put it when they see offences. That, individual drivers and so forth, those are the offences. Give me some of the offences then in general that we will find out or we could see that are committed on a daily basis.
Good morning to all your listeners. I trust that everyone is listening, and the information that will be disseminated today will be put into practice or put into use, and at the end of the day we will have a better nation in terms of person using the road in compliance with traffic offences and our regulations along the road. Talking about traffic offences, there's a lot of prevalent traffic offences that we see happening on our nation's roads from time to time. Mm-hmm. And to begin with, but not excluded to, we have one of the most common offense right now is persons who failing to wear seatbelt. Mm-hmm. Both drivers and passengers, front seat passengers, failing to wear a seatbelt. Moving forward, we have the use of mobile device, which is becoming very trendy, and as an offense and as a topic for discussion. We're seeing that almost every driver wants to have a cell phone in their hand. I don't know if it's a style, but it's a no-no for members of the Royal Grenada Police Force.
Is there a law against driving and using your cell phone?
Yes, there is. That is why I brought it up as one of the second most common offenses. Taking on and setting down passengers. That is with the omnibuses where they ply the various routes within the town, and they set down passengers where there is no take on and set down passengers where there is no bus stops. Also, we have parking on our bus stops, where the bus stop is used to set down and taking on passengers, but however, drivers tend to take it and use it as one of their parking spots and so forth. The purpose entirely for the bus stop is to take on and set down. You take on, you set down, you leave.
Okay.
any other business considered to be parking. Also, one other common offense is defective tires. Drivers driving with their tires in a condition that is dangerous to themselves, dangerous to the public, dangerous to other persons using the road. And it is serious, because once you have a tire in a defective condition, worst case scenario, your tire blow off. If you have passengers, you lose control, you endanger yourself, your passengers, and someone who is using the road can be collateral damage to such defective tire.
You mentioned something that grabbed my interest a wee bit in terms of, bus stops. And I see it as a problem in terms of, even the individuals, folks that uses buses and so forth, would want to stand anywhere for buses to pick them up, Could that be deemed as an offense also? Let's say pedestrians who wants to get a bus or so, and they will just stand anywhere and buses picking them up. Oh, is that deemed as an offense?
No, it is not an offense, but something that government, the executive arm, can look into and see, because at the end of the day, they contributing factors to buses picking up. But however, the bus drivers have to be disciplined enough to know that if I pick them up, I will be contributing to an offense. So, but however, they are not the one constituting an offense. So therefore, at that point in time, they have to say that if I don't pick them up, I would not be charged. But as you said, something that must be looked into, because at the end of the day, it must be curbed from both direction or both aspect of the table. Because if passengers know that they can be charged, if I take the bus here, then definitely they will reconsider and use the bus stops.
Let me ask you this also. It's a couple of years ago, the law was stated in terms of the use of seatbelt. How much of a problem is it for the traffic department in terms of seatbelt driving? A couple of years ago, there was a law that came out that it's mandatory that you use your seatbelt. Is it becoming a problem in terms of drivers not using their seatbelts for it?
Well, a lot of drivers are using their seatbelts. We must admit that. But however, in terms of compliance to non-compliance, it's almost as 50-50. Because remember, a lot of persons will say, well, if I don't want to wear a seatbelt, I choose not to wear it. But however, the law remains the law. But a lot of persons are not looking at the safety aspect of a seatbelt. A seatbelt can save your life.
True.
And for you to fully comprehend that, you have to be in a situation where it requires that seatbelt saving your life for you to actually see that seatbelt save life. I was in an accident, and actually the seatbelt is the one that kept me in my position, because what persons don't understand is that once you does not have your seatbelt and you meet in an accident, depending on the severity of the accident, you can become a projectile.
Yes.
You can move from one position to the other in the vehicle, causing danger to other persons in the vehicle. Because remember, I've seen accidents where persons leave the back seat and end up through the windscreen or end up on the driver or somebody in front, causing further damage or danger to that person, you being used as being that projectile. Yeah. And persons need to see that.
I also notice in Grenada, there's not much attention given to individuals who sit in the back using seatbelts. And you just mentioned, folks leaving from the back and come to the front just in case there's an accident. How much of a concern is that?
It is a concern as well. Every person in the vehicle should be strapped with a seatbelt. But however, we look at it as the front seat passengers, which is much more dangerous, where you can exit the windscreen if there was a sudden stop and the vehicle wasn't able to stop, because at the end of the day, you're looking at physics.
Yes.
The vehicle is going at a motion and it comes to a complete stop. Is obviously you wouldn't stay in your seat. You will move with the motion of that vehicle coming to the stop, the actual speed that vehicle was going with. So then you move forward with that speed of a vehicle that was going with when it comes to a sudden stop. So it's obviously you will tend to go towards the windscreen of that vehicle. And we see normally most of the time persons have head injury because they contacted with the windscreen, or persons go out depending on the speed or your weight, body mass, and all these other circumstances.
All right. No, the issue also, one of the other offenses that you spoke a bit of this morning was, of course, the offense of cell phones.
Yes.
Is it becoming already of a concern for the traffic
Yes,
department?
it is becoming a concern because cell phone is a major distraction while driving. As I always say, persons driving require a level of focus and attention on the road, where it requires all your senses. You have to see where you're going, hear other vehicles, you have to hear if there's any sound of siren and other things. So driving requires all of your senses, and you take, for example, the use of a cell phone while driving. That limits, so you definitely will be multitasking in a sense, and that is a no-no, because one distraction while driving, you take your eye for 1 second of the road, something, you lose focus, and you into somebody's vehicle, you impact some pedestrian.
What does the law say about the use of cell phone?
The law says under section 77B1 and 2 and the other, there's other offenses where other sections in terms of sending text messages and so forth. Once you hold or use a mobile device while driving, constitute to an offense. It's ticketable, and that you can be charged for $150. That is for private motor vehicles, and the maximum is $3,500. And for the public service vehicle, that is buses, taxis, and so forth, $500. That is for the ticket, and the maximum is $5,000 for that class of vehicle that you drive.
You said basic hold. So if you're driving and you just
have it in your hand,
and
it
officer notice you have holding on to that cell phone, you could be charged.
You can be charged. Yes, and once officers see you, you will be charged, because it's a prevalent offense that we're trying to curb at this moment, and we're still seeing a lot of persons blatantly ignoring and having little or no regards for this particular section of the law.
All right. We drew for a break. Let's take it. We come back and we should chat some more. It's to the point for today, Thursday, the 25th day of May. We're coming right back, folks. Stay with us.
Do you know, when you play the games of the National Lotteries Authority, you are supporting sports, culture, and nation building in Grenada, Carriacou, and PT Macnic?
Hi, I am Junior Murray, cricket coach, sports enthusiast, and a former West Indies cricketer. I endorse the games of the NLA 100%. For the past 40 years, the NLA has been funding many sporting activities, including competition for schools and clubs, and for athletes to participate in overseas tournaments such as the Carifta Games and the regional cricket tournaments. Additionally, they made it possible for you, the public, to view local, regional, and international tournaments from the comfort of your homes. For those reasons, I play the game of the NLA. Even if I do not win, I know Grenada always wins.
Yes, when you play all the games, the NLA in turn supports sports, culture, and nation-building activities throughout the Tri-Island state.
Cultural display.
Saturday, ready, set, go. All aboard, let's go.
Sunday, the feature weeks with activities for you and I. Monday, we know you will cry for more. Oh, we just can't wait to have fun. We can go sailing, we can go partying, eating and drinking. Go through this. This is our unique festival. Regatta 2023. Pity Macnic with St. Regatta awaits you May 26 to 29.
See you there.
Welcome back to our listeners and viewers this morning. It's To The Point here on Classic Radio and GBN TV. With me once again, we have Corporal Troy Paul and me this morning. Mr. Paul, tell me, an issue that is of concern maybe to regular road users, even drivers, the traffic department, is speeding. And you know, there's a limit in terms of how individual in Grenada, knowing the nature of our road conditions and so forth, how fast you can drive. You know, I don't think there's any road in Grenada that will permit you to go over 50. You understand? That will permit you to go over 50 miles per hour. And that's just a low speed limit I'm speaking of. Tell me, what is the speed limit in and out of towns in Grenada?
Yes. So, just to start with, the offense that constitutes to speeding, Section 58 of the Road Traffic Act. It says that a person who drives a motor vehicle of a class or description specified in the fourth schedule at a speed greater than the speed specified in the fourth schedule is in order made under Section 59 as being the maximum speed for a vehicle of that class or description on a road on which it has been driven commits an offense and shall be liable on summary conviction to a fine of $1,000 or to imprisonment for 12 months or both such fine and imprisonment. So that's in Section 58 of the Road Traffic Act deals with the whole section of speeding.
Okay.
But however, to answer the question in relation to the speed limits for the town, so I'll start with within the towns. So we're talking about St. George's, Grenville, Hillsborough, Guelph, Victoria, and all other towns in Grenada.
Yes.
It's 20 miles for all classes or description of vehicles. 20 miles across the road.
But 20 miles for across within the towns.
Yes, within the towns.
You can go 20 miles per
20
hour.
miles per hour.
Okay.
And out of the town for private motor vehicles, it is 40 miles per hour. So bikes, vehicles with P registration, etc., your speed limit is 40 miles per hour. Right. That is out of the town. So whether or not it's Morris Bishop Highway or whatever road that person's tend to be speeding on is 40 miles per hour. And for your public service, this is the buses on the H taxis and the T, those on T registration number, SL, all the other classes, a description is 35 miles per hour.
How much of a concern is it for the Royal Grenada Police Force, especially the traffic department, and concern of individuals who are not adhering to speed limits?
It is of serious concern to the Royal Grenada Police Force, especially members of the traffic department, because we're seeing a lot of non-compliance in certain areas from persons plying on Nations Road, especially the Morris Bishop Highway, Point Saline Public Road, Calivini Public Road, and a lot of other areas where there you may have a nice little piece of stretcher road and persons think that we have a little more roadway to drive on, so let me accelerate over the speed limit. But I want to send that message to you that the speed limit still remains as 40 and 35 miles per hour respectively for private and public and commercial vehicles and so forth, and we must adhere to them. Therefore, when persons fail to comply, it forces law enforcement to take measures and to additional measures, I should say, and to make sure that persons follow those speed limits in those specific areas. Because we're seeing that from time to time you would have law enforcement, and the mere fact that they are not there at times, persons think is the best opportune time that I should speed or break any other offenses along the nation's road. But you have an obligation as a driver for firstly your safety, and secondly safety of other persons using the road.
Right. You know, from time to time we see, maybe the Ministry of Works, and I'm assuming it's in compliance, in cooperation with the Royal Grenada Police Force, put these humps on the road. Do you think these humps are working? Because we still see the humps and we still see a level of speeding on the nation's road. Do you think it's working to a point?
Yeah, it works up to a point, but once because we know after road construction and so forth, paving and so on, those humps starts the use becomes a little more less in terms of the height of the asphalt, in terms of some of the humps and so on. But yes, they do work and they continue, but as long as drivers tends to, as we say, fly over them, then the purpose will no longer be effective, because we're seeing that humps have its place in terms of covering speeding, but if drivers do not take the time and go over them, then therefore we're seeing that the purpose and they will be using their usefulness. So we're asking drivers, for time we're coming on radio stations and TV stations and to reach to a point where we're begging. But at the end of the day, this should not be so, because if they're placed for a particular reason, for you to not speed, and yet still for all you're flying over those humps to get to your destination, then therefore law enforcement have to take another level to ensure compliance and safety along our nation's road, and that is in terms of dealing with perpetrators when you fail to adhere to speed limit signs and so forth. So we will definitely have to do what we have to make sure that our road's safe.
In terms of, we see a lot of accidents and so forth are taking place. Would you say that 90%, if we go for a percentage sake of it, speeding is the main cause of it?
I don't want to make that bold step and say that speeding, but speeding is a contributing factor to a number of accidents where drivers tend to go over a speed, because not only exceeding the speed limit, but we also have to look at our road conditions. Is it conducive for me to accelerate at a speed that I am accelerating? And most of the time, you don't have to go over the speed limit to constitute to speeding, but we have to also look at the road conditions, whether or not it is filled with corners. Some roads may have potholes. Sorry to say it, but we have to look at the factors.
So there are various factors that could contribute to accidents.
Yes, very well.
But I just said, because sometimes you see the nature of impact, and you would say, well, because of the nature of the impact, you would say speeding is one of the key factors that contributed to it.
Yes, but not all the time you look at the nature of the damages and say that speeding is a cause, because at the end of the day, most of the times the vehicles are built to take impact. Yes,
that's understandable.
Yes, gone are the days where you have these heavy metal and iron vehicles and so forth, and they hit something heavy and you see little or no damage. Now you're seeing that those vehicles now, they're building them so that they can
they are more
they're observable to the impact. So you see a lot of damages, but nothing happens to the driver.
Okay.
So they protect the driver inside. So they see firstly the airbags and so forth will deploy and all the other things, and the driver remains safe with little or no damage.
All right. Now let's go to a matter of concern now. Cyclists, pedestrians, use of the road. Give us some insight on that. How these individuals are able to use the roads?
Yes, pedestrians and cyclists have an obligation. For many times we see that the misuse of road by pedestrians, especially cyclists, and they go about, especially the cyclists, as I could just use the road network anyhow I figure I should do so, and it is something that we have to look into as law enforcement, because you see, especially sometime in town, you see cyclists going in and out of traffic. And it is for their safety that they are not seeing the negatives and all the things that can happen, because one person can open the door without looking, and you become statistics in terms of a road accident. But more so, you have an obligation to comply with traffic directions and signals and so forth. Not because you have a smaller instrument that could take you from one place to the other, you would maneuver through traffic anyhow you feel as you want. But to begin with, I will start with the cyclists.
But does it constitute an offense for cyclists to be cutting in and out of traffic?
the cyclists as well have an obligation to obey traffic signs and signals and directions, and when given, and you failing to comply with those, you constitute into an offense as well in terms of failing to comply and so forth, because you are required to follow traffic in its entirety just as any regular driver supposed to. And as I stated, once you breach those, you constitute to an offense as well. But to start with cyclists, that we're seeing a lot of these cyclists, they're not even wearing a helmet to begin with. The law requires you to wear a helmet once you.
And is that more for motorcyclists?
Both motorcyclists and cyclists, that you're required to have a helmet when you're using the road network.
Okay.
So to begin with, you're about to leave home, you make sure that you have a helmet. Also, we're seeing a lot of unlicensed cyclists or unlicensed cycle along the nation road. The law requires that you license and register your cycle at the traffic department. So they make sure that your cycle have lights, you have horns, you have good tires.
And that's for both motorcycle and bicycles.
Well, there's a difference when you're talking about the motor vehicles and so forth. You require to have indicators and so on.
Okay.
But remember, the bicycle doesn't require to have indicators and other stop lights, headlamps, and so forth.
Okay,
so for the bicycle, you're required to have a light, a horn, audio device. You have good tires, and so forth. And they must have the frame of the bicycle must be good, a good working frame.
Okay. We drew for a break. Let's take it. We're coming right back. Stay with us, folks.
You're already ill.
The box we say, yeah. GBN we say, arts and culture living, yeah. Rock the box we say, I'm telling you, rock the box, rock the box, rock the box we say. I'm telling you, rock the box, rock the box, rock the box we say. We'll be jamming here on a Thursday.
Join us on Caribbean Medical TV as we discuss a topic close to the heart of our Caribbean people and hear the experiences from the leading experts in the region about heart disease, the major contributing factors, what to look for, and why we are seeing heart attacks in younger men and women. Be viewing Caribbean Medical TV right here on this station.
On Caribbean Passport, it's time to tour St. Vincent and the Grenadines. Planning a destination wedding? Well, Barbados is more than a beach getaway. And let's enjoy delicious cuisine from Chef Chris De La Rosa, right here on this station.
Welcome back to listeners and viewers. It's to the point for today, Thursday, the 25th day of May. Here this morning, we have Corporal Paul with me this morning, and we going through to, of course, and we speaking about traffic offenses. Of course, we started off talking about speed limits, in and out of towns. We talk about the different offenses that of course, constituted out there. Talk about the laws of it. Before the break, we were talking about cyclists and pedestrian use of the roads. And you started giving some information about that. Let's focus a wee bit on pedestrians and their use of the road.
Yes, pedestrians have an obligation as well in terms of safely using the road network. Because most of the time we hear drivers to comply with, but we're not hearing much of pedestrians to comply with. To begin with, we know that we does not have enough adequate facilities in terms of sidewalks, crosswalks, pedestrian crossing, and our road network are not so much pedestrian friendly.
Yes.
We must admit that. But at the end of the day, pedestrians as well have an obligation for their safety as well. But from time to time, we still see the misuse of sidewalks, pedestrian crossing with the little that we have. Persons are not properly using them and so forth. So we're seeing a number of pedestrian accidents and a lot of misuse, as I stated earlier on, in relation to using the road network. And pedestrians have an obligation as well in terms of for their safety and making sure that they use the road network properly and get to their destination safely. To begin with, we just want to implore on pedestrians to use sidewalks if they are available, places where it is conducive for you to walk properly, and to avoid using the road if you don't have to.
All right. You know, something I wanted to ask. Before we talking traffic offenses, what kind of offense can a pedestrian
commit? Yes.
In terms of the offenses.
So section one I will get into cyclists and pedestrian to comply with direction to stop. So every member of the police force in uniform engaged in regulation of vehicular traffic on a road gives a traffic control signal to enable a vehicle to proceed in an indicated direction. Any cyclist or pedestrian who proceed against the flow of traffic consequent upon the signal of all loiterers in the road or otherwise impedes any vehicle from proceeding in the direction indicated commits an offense.
Okay.
That is
So in a nutshell, you're saying the officer asks you to stop.
Yes.
Or to stand still, especially when
because he is regulating the flow of traffic.
There's a pedestrian cross or whatever it is at the time, and he asks you to stop, and you decide you're not going to stop. I'm going to proceed to walk. That's an offense.
Yes, an offense. It's called failing to comply. For pedestrian cyclists. So the officer is directing his traffic, and he's directing vehicles to a particular direction lane, and you as a pedestrian intend to cross or whatever it is, and the officer stops you and you blatantly disregard the officer's instruction, you can be that, and that is an arrestable offense. Yeah.
Okay.
You can be arrested for failure to comply under Section 73 of the Road Traffic Act.
Let's entertain some calls this morning. 435-2041. That's a number. If you do have a question or two you would like to ask, feel free to call. Let's go to the phone line. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Yes, good morning, Mr. Telesford, and good morning to your guests. 3 little observations here. One, I would like to suggest to the police officer that when he is reporting or reading the law, as the case may be, and so to the people as it relates to, but given numbers, especially speeds and things like that he uses both internationally recognized measurements, metric and British. He speaks of miles only. But I think it's important to recognize that modern dashboards reflect two measurements, metric and the British. And of course, their corresponding numbers. 2, some months ago, within the same year, I referred to the said gentleman, Mr. Paul, of a situation in the entrance to Lacalome, or the village called Lacalome, in relation to the markings in the road distinguishing the pedestrian crossing, the restriction lines, and the bus stops. They're fading. Confirmed information from at least 3 people that these markings are fading. I asked him to get his authority to correct them. It has not been done to date. Because I had a situation recently where crossing the road on the pedestrian, and don't ask me how I know because I have it marked, vehicles continue to pass behind my back while I am crossing on a pedestrian crossing. This is dangerous, and it is incorrect. Procedurally, they should stop at the restriction lines as the international system goes. I'd like to have this corrected as soon as possible, please. Within the village, from the time of its establishment, there have been markings set to regulate the flow of traffic in a particular area after the first and second interception, in the first section of the village, to create conditions for one-way traffic. That has not been respected to date. I'm inviting them to take a look at it in a bid to replace the markings so that the vehicles would take the normal course and so that drivers wouldn't have to tear my mother's whatever when I cross a road where I have all right to do and having to confront vehicles coming my way where they're not supposed to be. There's one final thing I wanted to touch on is this. I have made contact with certain poles and infrastructure development in St. George's, the town. My understanding is that street lights are being in, and that's nice. I'm happy to hear that. But it is evident from what I've found out that no conditions are being created to inform the visually impaired, and I refer to this part of it with technicalities because the visually impaired, particularly this one, that's qualified by training to move about. And of course I do. What provisions are being made to inform people like me that I am on a pedestrian crossing? And further, to signal me when I can pass or cross or not. I trust that my points are taken and that they're taken back to your authority. But the final question, I'd like you to answer it for me, sir. Have a nice day, will you?
Thank you, caller, very much for your contribution there this morning. Anything from the caller you would like to respond to?
Yes, to begin with, in relation to the requests made previously, it has definitely been looked into, but however, there are some challenges in relation to resources and so forth. But we definitely considered relooking at those issues mentioned by the caller, and we definitely have to rectify those challenges, those issues and challenges that we have in relation to resurfacing those pedestrian crossings and so forth in the area mentioned, and which is we definitely will look into in short order. As he said, it is long overdue, and we have to do what is necessary to keep on our roads safe for our road users. In relation to the last question that he posed, it is something that we definitely have to go to the drawing board and look, because remember, we never took into consideration the visually impaired and other persons with physical challenges when we do a lot of things as a nation. But definitely we have to consider those things. If we're talking international, we definitely have to go back to the drawing board and see how we can rectify, and not just rectify. If we are constructing things in the future, we have to make sure that they are a part of the decision making of society.
All right, thank you so much. Let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning, welcome.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, I'm calling. I have concerns and questions concerning the program, please.
Go right ahead with your concerns and all questions.
Okay. One of the issues that we are having with motorists and accidents and so this is the consumption of alcohol and driving. I would like to know if the police force has breathalyzers and if they're being used. For instance, on the bus terminals, right? You see bus drivers line up and they have a Guinness or a beer or something in their hand, and they're about to jump in the bus in a while and drive, and there are police walking up and down. I've seen that, and nothing has been, And another thing is that the police should set an example, because emergency or not, they're always speeding and driving out of control. So that are my two concerns: breathalyzers, alcohol use, and driving. And I think this should be really stepped up on. Thank you.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution there this morning. In terms of breathalyzers, but I think we did have a program previously when you did speak about the police at the traffic department having breathalyzers.
Yes, we do have breathalyzers, and they are being used almost on a daily basis, especially on our weekends more so. where persons have been arrested for driving under the influence of alcohol. But yes, we do have those breathalyzers, and they are in use, and persons have been arrested for driving over the speed limit, which is 70 micrograms of alcohol in 100 milliliters of breath. It is, as we normally say, one of the highest in the Caribbean or in the world, and yet still persons are still driving under the influence exceeding 70 micrograms. In most countries it's 35, and but we are doing what we can as law enforcement to curb that ill, but it is a challenge. This particular offense is becoming a challenge for us, especially persons thinking that they can go out there, consume alcohol, and then you're over the speed limit, and then thinking that it is safe to drive, or I can go ahead and drive normally. Once we caught you, once we found out that you are under the influence while driving, you will be subjected to a breathalyzer check, and once you're over the limit, you will be arrested and charged for the offense.
Okay. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
Yes, I call it a concern in the street light. I think the street light that the guys are putting up here now in Grenada, I think is unnecessary. I think the street warden are working just fine. I can't see why the use of the street light, because economically speaking, it's going to just cost the government a whole lot of money, because this street light breaks down all the time, and you have to get somebody to fix it. So I can't see why the reason in really using the street lights.
Thank you, caller. Well, I guess it's the opinion of the caller, but the traffic light will do have some.
Yeah, it do have its significance, because at the end of the day there will be points, and at times certain areas need to be controlled, and that is what the traffic lights are there for, to assist in controlling and regulating traffic. And we may not see, certain persons may not see matter of opinion, maybe based on the time of travel, but they do have their significance.
Let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning. Welcome.
GT, and morning to the officer. There's a few points I want to endorse and also to reiterate. One of the first ones, which I hope I don't forget, is a few weeks ago on one of your programs, one of your regular callers called and tried to connect the increasing accidents with the issue of people with glaucoma, people related to problems, especially overuse, resulting from poor dietary choice and so on. And then the fact that we know we have a problem with alcoholism and also with drug addiction. The police thinking from a holistic point of view, because we may have to start to do random checks on people who are driving. Not just you have to suspect them, but random checks who are driving under the influence of alcohol in an effort to save lives. So that is one. The issue of the markings in La Colombe that one of your colleagues spoke about, I want to support that. Because even when, over the years, when I try to explain to people that the direction they come in is not where is the wrong one, sometimes they will dispute me. And particularly, the wrong entrance that they use could be very dangerous, because it's kind of sharp corner. And when you come there, somebody, whether they're visually impaired or they're normal, could be killed. I remember when I was young, there was a serious accident somewhere in St. George's Store that was something along that line. So every time I reach that area, I always make sure that even though I'm coming up that road, that I don't try to do the same if a vehicle is coming around. So we need to regulate things here for sure. And finally, the issue of getting people. I remember when the current police commissioner came to Victoria years ago. One of the things he did is to start getting people charged for things that was considered normal, and people got very affected. Whether it's defecation on the beach or in the river or something like that. We need to start using some people as examples. No, I don't mean being harsh, but I mean we need to really ensure that law and order is in this place, which seems to be in the absence at the moment. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution to this morning. Anything the caller said? Corporal?
Thank you, caller, for the, your information. I just want to talk about in relation to signs, road signs, and so forth. It is very, very important to have road signs, whether it on markings along a nation's road. It is, if we're talking road safety and we does not have adequate road signs and markings and so forth, and then therefore we're defeating the purpose. Because at the end of the day, there's so much you can do as law enforcement in terms of enforcement. At the end of the day, road markings and signs contribute to the decline of a lot of our road statistics in terms of accidents and so forth along our roads. And they do help, they do assist, especially pedestrian resurfacing of the pedestrian crossings or humps and other markings and so forth that will help eliminate and reduce accidents. So it is very, very, very important that we maintain, as a country, maintain our signs and maintain our road markings and so forth to make our roads safe for all road users. And I cannot stop stress on safety, the importance and paramount. The significance of road safety.
Yeah.
Yes.
No, the issue of compliance to direction, how big of a problem is that in Grenada?
It is a problem from time to time, because with the lesser signs that we have, that we do mention that we have, persons are still not adhering to a lot of them in specific areas and so on. And signs, I want to let persons know that signs are placed for a particular reason. And you blatantly having no regards for those signs says that persons are lawless. So we're seeing signs as no parking, no entries, and persons are still blatantly disregarding them. Police notice with whatever instruction, and you see
no through, no pass
no through, no
and
entry,
stuff like that,
and all these things, and persons are not complying. Even the speed limit is signs as well. 20 miles, tell you 20 miles, 45, 35 miles per hour, and you blatantly disregard. It is an offense. And persons must be mindful that you fail to comply with a sign made in order by the Commissioner of Police. It is constitute to an offense under Section 83 of the Road Traffic Act, and persons can be charged up to $500 or to imprisonment of 3 months, or to both such fine or imprisonment once you breach any of our road traffic signs or notice along our nation's road.
All right, I have a question here from Ernesto. Seems to really want to get his question in, someone online. And he's saying the question that he wants to ask is pertaining to the right of way to another vehicle. For example, he's saying that in the diaspora you have a 4 or a 2-way stop sign where the first one comes first, go. Also, the yield sign is the that gives the right of way also. Can the officer speak of the right way for the right of way of vehicles?
I trust that the caller is speaking in relation to roundabout, because here we have most of the time give on your right. So whether or not it's intersection, roundabout, and so forth, you have to give way to traffic on your right. So you're approaching a roundabout, you stop, you slow down, you yield, and you give traffic to priority traffic on your right. That is what the law requires here in Grenada. We doesn't have the double, as he stated, in relation to so on, but for whatever we do have, what is required from a driver perspective is to give way to traffic on your right.
All right. We due for a break. Let's take it. We come back. We take more of your phone calls. Stay with us, folks, here on To The Point. We're coming right back.
Marsley Regatta Festival.
Where on Friday, we welcome you with cultural display.
Saturday, ready, set, go. All aboard, let's go.
Sunday, the future weeks with activities for you and I. Monday, we know you will cry for more.
Oh, we just can't wait to have fun. We can go sailing, we can go partying, eating and drinking, we can go through it. This is our unique festival. Regatta 2023. Pidematic Whitsun Tide Regatta awaits you May 26th to 29th. See you there.
Welcome back, listeners and viewers. It's to the point for today, Thursday, the 25th day of May. With me this morning, Corporal Paul. And let's go to the phone lines and see what this caller has to offer this morning. Caller, good morning, welcome.
President, good morning to you, and good morning to you, Corporal Paul. Once again, congratulations on the promotion. For this, in the interest of the public, the question here is, we have seen the emergence of motorized bicycle. Folks are buying what we call 80cc and maybe 100cc motors and putting onto bicycles, thus changing the dynamics from bicycle to motorcycle. And we are also seeing a few of the electrical ones coming. They are electrically motorized. What in terms of letting some of these folks know that when you change a bicycle from a motorcycle to a motorcycle, that it should be registered and licensed, because it just like a motorcycle, you can hurt somebody, and as you alluded earlier, well, for now there is not much in place with respect to bicycles, as a big way to license and insurance. So I think this is something that has to be looked into. And as you're there, just like you have to be run out, because it is emerging, and sooner or later, I would say it may be difficult to control. Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Thank you also for your contribution this morning. Anything the caller said you want to respond to, Corporal Paul?
Yeah, the caller is right in relation to the information, because once you change the dynamics of that cycle and you have a motor where it can be mechanically propelled, then you change the description and class of that particular bicycle at the end of the day. And once it becomes motorable in terms of having a motor, then therefore you have to consider having it licensed, registered, and so forth. Because as I stated, once it is mechanically propelled, they change the whole dynamics of it. So then therefore once you're in control of such, I would therefore advise you to consider to getting it licensed, registered once it meets the requirements.
Okay. Let's pick another caller. Caller, good morning, welcome.
Good morning. I'm just calling. One of your callers is visually impaired. Mentioned about the crossing at Lacalome that needs to be painted. I just wanted to correct him because it was painted last week. It's freshly painted, so I don't know where his source of information is from, but he should have been informed that it was repainted. And I heard your officer there speaking about using the sidewalks, but the sidewalks are full with vendors, so where do people walk?
All right, thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution there. Well, I guess the Lacalome...
thanks very much for the updates in relation to that. And also in relation to sidewalk, yes, we're seeing a trend, vendors using the sidewalk, and it's definitely a situation that law enforcement have to look into again. And there's some challenges which I don't want to get into at the moment in relation to that aspect of it, but we'll definitely have to look into it because we have limited sidewalks, and we're still seeing that they're occupied. So we definitely have to look into it in relation to curb that ill that we see happening in relation to our sidewalks.
Let's entertain another caller. Caller, good morning and welcome.
Good morning. Again.
Good morning, Hugo.
Yeah, officer, I want to talk about the police and it. They hire and give bus driver a ticket. So what going on with that? They have to be hire and give a bus driver a ticket. Is that my point?
All right, caller. All right, thank you for your contribution here this morning. I'm not sure the direction he's going at, but...
When he say hi, did I give ticket?
Hi, they give you a ticket.
The thing is that I just want to mention brief about that. At the end of the day, if you do not commit an offense, there's nothing to be charged for, whether or not you think that the officer is hiding or not. But the officer's responsibility is to protect life and property, and the officers should be in a position that they have a vantage point of every street and corner. So some persons might think that an officer is hiding, but the officer is in a position where he can see both. I'm not too sure if that is exactly what the
and if you get a ticket, it's only obvious you have committed offense.
Is looking at when he's talking about hiding. But I trust that an officer should not be as you say, playing hide and seek or so forth. But their responsibility is to, as I said, to protect life and property and to be seen so that persons do not commit offenses. But however, I trust that the drivers or the bus drivers, as he made mention of, that if you should not be taking on passengers, you should not, or whatever particular offense, that you shouldn't be doing it and having to think that an officer is hiding or looking at it from that aspect.
All right. Caller, good morning, welcome.
Good morning, thank you. Good morning to you, gentlemen. So I'm calling in regards to the speed limit. I think that speed limit has been there for quite some time. I think the country is evolving, time is evolving, and I asked the officer, is it 20 miles per hour going into town? 20 miles per hour is very slow. And with the amount of vehicles we have now, we can see that driving 20 miles per hour will increase traffic. Subject to correction. Also, with out of town, 40 miles ain't too bad, but I'm guessing that 90% of the population drives more than 40 miles per hour, even law enforcers as well. So we are breaking the traffic laws. So I'm not too sure if they're looking to revise the speed limit of the country, because I think we could do better with the speed limit, especially for the highway. The word highway speaks for itself. I don't see why someone should be driving at least 40 or 35 miles per hour from the Sugar Mill roundabout to the airport. Because if you look, for example, the learners drive within the speed limit, and people overtake them all the time because they're causing traffic. They're learning to drive, but even officers overtake them because they're driving too slow. Because they're learning. So I want to know if they have any means of improving or revising the traffic speed limit. And I know you might say the speed limit may cause accidents. Because we're driving fast, but I think majority of the accidents to me is caused by reckless driving and people not paying attention to the road. And maybe almost like cell phones. Because when they're driving, I look at somebody, they're gazing, and they're dumb in their phone. So that's my contribution. Thanks.
Thank you, caller. Thank you for your contribution this morning. Anything final, Corporal, if you want to respond to the caller? We also have time for us to take a wrap for today also.
In relation to the speed limit, it definitely can be looked into. But you mentioned about the 20 miles. Sometimes it is not even conducive. You doesn't even get the opportunity to drive, especially in the town, with 20 miles per hour. Because the traffic congestion is so much and traffic is bumper to bumper, that you driving most of the times 5-10 miles per hour. But there are times looking at out of our town, maybe something that can be looked at, but however, increasing the speed limit, looking at it to, I don't think it's maybe the best, but then we have to.
Feasible now.
It could be feasible, but at the end of the day, looking at the number of accidents happening along the road, will that be the best solution at the particular time?
Okay.
But there's a lot we have to look into as a country in terms of science, safety, a lot in terms of our road network, making our road safe for our road users. Because remember, we have a lot of vehicles coming in on a weekly basis, monthly basis, and we're maybe almost to maybe half our population in terms of vehicles being on our nation's road, registered vehicles. So that has to be looked in as well. And before we look at a lot of other factors and so forth.
Okay. All right.
But thanks very much for your contribution in relation to that.
Corporal, Paul, I want you to any final which you want to throw out in terms of the offences. We have all time for us.
Yes, so we've mentioned a lot this morning in relation to traffic offences, some of the prevalent offences, speeding, persons failing to comply, cyclists, pedestrians, and so forth, while using our nation's road. From most of the times, as I stated, we plead and we beg with drivers, pedestrians, and it is more becoming like a song that we're hearing on our nation's road every day. On our radio stations every day. And law enforcement have to do what is necessary to prevent and to curb road accidents and to make our roads safe for our road users. And we're still seeing the increase in the number of accidents on a daily basis. So from law enforcement, we have to do what is necessary to make sure that we curb those ills in our society. And we'll definitely be out in our numbers and persons dealing with perpetrators both day and night. You will definitely see our speed guns will be out, our breathalyzers will be in use more frequently, and we have to deal with offenders when they break our laws, because we cannot sit by and blatantly watch drivers and pedestrians being lawless and law enforcement not doing what they have to. So we will definitely beef up on our resources out there so that persons will adhere to those rules and regulations and along the nation's road. And then definitely from the traffic department, we will do what is necessary to make our roads safe for all road users. Thank you very much.
Corporal Paul, I want to thank you for sharing all the information you did share with us this morning, and I certainly hope the viewers and listeners will certainly do comply, and of course we have less offences on our nation's road. This is where we come to the end of To The Point for today, folks. Join us again for another edition. This is where I say goodbye.